Here we are. A wee-o, whim away.
Wow.
How do you feel about the franchise sleeping tonight?
Dude, probably the weirdest franchise we've ever covered. In terms of, like, what each of the movies are.
What each one offers in the context of the greater series?
Yes.
Truly bizarre. Truly stopped all forward momentum at Lion King 2. Objectively the worst film in the series.
Yeah, so you've got the first film, which is like a cultural phenomenon, makes an unbelievable amount of money. The second film, they're like, I don't know, put no effort into it whatsoever. Drop it on video 4 years later. Which is so different from like how they would do it today, you know. Like, that's also what's so wild about it. The third movie is a parody of the first movie, an officially licensed parody. Fourth movie is a remake, an ill-advised remake of the first movie. And then the fifth movie is like a retelling of the first movie again through like another medium.
I feel like the only series to have gone through this many tortured iterations would be Evil Dead. Which would also be an interesting series to do. But it is wild, where it's like, what would you want? I love Black is King, and I think it's a great thing that it exists in the world. Mm-hmm. But it is not what I would have expected to come next in the Lion King series, necessarily, looking at the previous films. Had I expected... frankly, I would not have expected anything at all. But certainly not that. And then... to say, like, what more could we possibly expect in the future in this world? I feel like in the one sense, Beyonce really blew the hinges off of, like, what could be done with it, and, like, what an adaptation of a Disney film could really look like if you got, like, full artistic control over it, which I think is really exciting. But will other people with less name recognition and just, like, artistic power, essentially, or will they be allowed to do that? Or is it just reserved for people like Beyonce, you know?
Because even Jon Favreau, they say remake The Lion King, and like we saw what happened there.
Yeah.
But you're right that this is kind of like, it's interesting to imagine the world where we just get The Lion King 1994, and then like 25 years later we get Black is King, which is like Beyonce's take on it. It's also interesting to imagine the world where, like, Black is King is the Lion King remake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever get anything as, like, artistically bold as that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that people would have been pissed. I'm sure that, like, families would have been... Middle America would have been up in arms if The Lion King came out in 2019 and it was Black is King. But it also... just has like so much more artistic value than like any other Disney thing in the last few years. Do you have any sort of thought about us sort of seeing all the different ways that Disney has tried to make money off of this classic film?
It's a lesson less about the series than it is about the trajectory of modern filmmaking. What did I learn about The Lion King from watching the entire Lion King series in 2 weeks? Objectively, not much more than I learned after watching the first Lion King.
Yeah.
But what did I learn about, you know, like the history of trends in American filmmaking since the 1990s? Let me break it down for a second. This is completely anecdotal and come up with on the spot, so pay no credence to this whatsoever. But here's my take. So in the 90s, obviously, like, The Lion King is not a genuinely new idea necessarily, but they were still like, it's fresh, it's cool, and they just like presented this kind of crazy idea on its own terms. It kicked ass. It just like took off, and some things did and some things didn't. Like, it was an era of like, yeah, we're just gonna try this thing. We're just going to do it, and it's going to be artistically grand, and it might be a grand flop, but it'll be awesome. Like, I think of Dick Tracy, something that is, like, absurd, but is glorious, you know?
Right.
Then you get the complete schlock late 90s, every idea is completely tired. We have no creative output anymore. It's pure capitalism. We're just trying to put more money in our pockets. That's the era when there were 15 Land Before Time direct-to-video releases a year. You know, just trying to get that sweet cash money. Like, every time you went to the store as a kid, there was a new Land Before Time out, and you're like, I can't believe he's had that many adventures since I last was here.
That's true. You really think we got to get to time eventually?
Exactly.
How far out were we?
Yeah, exactly. And then we have the early 2000s where like, we've got attitude. And that's our little Lion King 1.5. We got a lot of shows in that time period. Like, think about like shows and things that were coming out. You know, that Hannah Montana thing of like being aware that she's a performer, breaking the fourth, like breaking the wall between what's reality and what's performed. You think of like Shrek is another one that's kind of like in that self-aware, irreverent comedy zone. Then kick it back to the 20 teens, and everybody's getting those sentimental feelings again and being like, well, maybe those stories that we grew up when we were children were worth something. They were like, maybe we should just like try and redo those. But of course, money got in the way like it always does and ruined a good thing. And like they overstepped themselves. I think essentially it was hubris to say that we can make animals that look realer than real. And we're going to put this nature documentary on the huge big screen and put all of your favorite singers like in this movie kicking it. And it's still not going to be good. Or it's still not going to be great the way the original was because it's like a facsimile of a thing. It's not like the thing itself.
Yeah.
And then Beyonce comes along and does the thing itself again because she's just taken the idea and like the core of what's interesting about it and done it. And I feel like that's the era of filmmaking that we're like getting into. I feel like that's what's really resonant about like so many of the directors that we've talked about that are new, like the Greta Gerwig and the Jordan Peele and the Ari Aster sort of thing, is that all of their movies are extremely personal. But they're also like, it's through their extremely personal detail, attention to detail, and like strong artistic vision that couldn't possibly be delivered to you by anyone else that like makes those movies universal and makes them work for so many people. And I think like that's something that's really present in Black is King, and I think that's something that's present in the original Lion King. But I don't know about the others.
No, that was awesome. I mean, I think you're totally right there. It's worth noting that we on this podcast did not cover or get to see The Lion King on Broadway, which by all accounts is sort of the most moving rendition of it after the first one.
Okay.
But it's also worth noting, to your point, that like The Lion King on Broadway is the single highest grossing thing in entertainment.
Ever
of anything.
You said it was the first and second highest grossing animated films of all time are both Lion King, right?
Well, 1994 when it came out was the highest grossing. Now 2019 is the highest grossing.
Okay.
I believe that it is $8 billion is what The Lion King on Broadway has made. Phantom of the Opera has made $6 billion, and the highest grossing movies are Avatar and Avengers Endgame, which are at $3 billion.
Okay.
So, like, less than half what The Lion King on Broadway has done.
So wild.
And we also know that supposedly, somewhere in the Disney exec room, Barry Jenkins of Moonlight and The Underground Railroad and If Beale Street Could Talk has one of these Oculus VR sets strapped to his head and is
directing Lion King 2.
The Godfather Part 2 of the Lion King franchise.
Oh my god. It's going to be more like The Irishman Part 2 because they're going to have all this weird de-aging on all the animals. Like if you thought the animals looked bad in 2019, just wait till they put all the de-aging stuff on them to make the animals that were 50 years old in 2019 look like they're 20 years old in 2023.
Oh, I wonder if he's going to stick to that style. If it's mandated that he must, or if he's just going to be like, no, I'm not doing it.
How cool would it be if he like chose a more expressive animation style?
Like, I think if you watch that movie, you can tell that Favreau knows it doesn't really work because, like, most of the shots are not on their faces. Like, he's done a lot to sort of keep it in wide shots and, like, not have many close-ups, not show you them talking very much.
True.
Would you be so bold as to hazard any sort of guess about what the next movement we may see? What in the next 20 or 30 years we'll see The Lion King dragged out for to make more money?
I mean, I think obviously there's this Barry Jenkins sequel, right?
Yeah.
Prequel sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of killing two birds with one stone.
Can I say, it's a weird premise to me that the prequel sequel is going to be Simba ruling the kingdom post Lion King in the present with flashbacks to Scar and Mufasa as young lions. Because Scar and Mufasa are both dead.
Yeah, it's like, what does that affect in the present?
Yeah, what is that reflecting? Because neither of them are there to sort of like be learning from their past.
Interesting. Well, maybe we will find out.
I mean, we'll see it. We'll be duty bound to pay Disney our $50 and sit in the theater. Whenever that thing comes out.
Damn.
Christmas 2027.
Probably have to walk through a VR like safari to go see it even. Okay, Wade, would you hazard a guess at a ranking for these?
The ranking? I thought we were talking about The Lion King.
At 2, Pumbaa.
Yes, I would try my best. I would say, let me see. I'd say number 5, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, Dishonor, Disgrace. Number 4.
I'd forgotten about that song.
That's the only memorable part of the movie.
I'm gonna look that song up right after this.
Number 4, The Lion King 2019. Number 3, The Lion King 1.5. Number 2, Black is King. Number 1, The Lion King 1994. That's how I would do it. I think The Lion King and Black is King are both like really visually stunning. Black is King is maybe more of an artistic achievement. Certainly like morally and culturally way more exciting than The Lion King. But it is definitely really indebted to the blueprint of The Lion King. I think it's a little bit less satisfying because it loses the plot, which wouldn't be a problem if it didn't have a plot, but it has a plot and then it loses it.
That's fair.
What would be your ranking?
So we got 5 is going to be Lion King 2. 4 is going to be live action. No, you know what? 5 is live action.
Wow.
I would rather...
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Because I would watch Lion King 2 again for, like, the meme of it, but I would not do the same thing for the live action. Like, I don't find any value, even in, like, making fun of the live action one, where I think the Lion King 2 is, like, kind of absurd and not good, but wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful to, like, watch and laugh at. Then I would go with... Then it gets really hard.
Yeah, the other 3 are all good. Genuinely.
So then I go Lion King 1.5, and Black is King.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But, like, they're all, like, very close together. It's...
Do you like the parody more than the original?
Yeah, I do. I think it improves on it in some ways.
It is still satisfying. Like, that movie
Yeah.
still does work emotionally
Yeah.
in a way that a lot of, like, similar-minded takes don't really.
In a way that Spaceballs does not.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about the series? Anything we've learned about writing? How to treat a story over and over and over again?
I mean, I think you need an increasingly fresh take. I think that is clear.
Think about it this way. If these were 5 different drafts of a script for an as-yet unwritten project called The Lion King, which of these do you think is, like, the strongest for that thing?
That's a weird hypothetical, imagining that I hadn't seen any of them. I think 94 is the tightest. Like, that's the most concise version of that script. But I do think Black is King is the most interesting. I think you would immediately disregard 2019. Because you would be like, this is the same as the other one, but longer and worse.
Yeah.
I mean, being charitable just longer. What do you think?
Probably the original as well. I would say the original with the aesthetic and cast of Black is King. Like that script, which I think is unquestionably strong.
Yeah.
With like some tighter story and like some dialogue that tied in to character in Black is King would be really cool.
Oh, I would again say that I would have much rather just have seen a live reading with the cast of 19 than like the movie.
Yeah.
And like if they really had to do it, like if they had to do something like dub it over. Like take the original and just like record, do a live reading over the original playing.
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
That'd be weird, but it'd be fun. Well, shall we let the lions sleep tonight?
I think we shall.
Oh, I had one last thought about this that came to me out of deep memory today as I was walking over here. I used to have a Simba costume when I was a kid and used to dress up as Simba often, even though I had never seen the movie. And there are pictures of me dressed up as Simba. It was originally a Halloween costume, but in my household, this rarely stayed just for being for Halloween.
Wow.
And I hadn't thought about it in years until I was just walking over here today and was like, oh yeah, I do have a childhood connection with this.
Yeah, well, you gotta send the pic and we'll post it up.
Oh yeah, we'll find the one.
Shall we reveal what next we have in store?
Yeah, we shall. Did we come up with a clever name for this one?
Pull up a seat because it's going to be Denny for 2.
I love it. That's so good. We're sticking with it. All right, so we're gonna delve into the works of Denis Villeneuve. Mm-hmm. He's a director,
French Canadian
director who's released several films in the past decade or so, many of which have been acclaimed in the sci-fi realm. 3 of those that are of a special import right now are Arrival with Amy Adams in 2016. Mm-hmm. Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, and...
Oh, Ana de Armas.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes, and then Sicario, which is also very famous, apparently very good. I haven't seen it. And then Dune, the big one, the one that is coming out this fall, and that this series is going to be lined up kind of to come out with that being the last episode.
Yeah, so we're watching all of his films leading up to the release of Dune, and I'm going to make a promise here. I am going to read Dune before we watch it. I'm making a promise here on air that I am going to read 1 book over the next 2 months, and indeed finish it.
Okay, I hope putting it on air holds you to it.
Well, you're certainly looking forward to the Dune movie. Am I right?
I am.
That's a big part of why we picked this.
So stoked for Dune. I love Dune, but I also love Denis. I've loved him since Arrival. I haven't seen much of his previous stuff, but I did see Blade Runner when it came out. And I'm just excited. I've always heard good things about his stuff, as being dark and twisty and psychological, which is all the sorts of stuff that we like to get into. A little sci-fi, a little horror. I guess we just felt like it was time to do a longer running series too.
Yeah, I am excited to dive back into a longer one. So we are going to start next Tuesday. We're gonna, in August, cover all of his 4 French films, his foreign language films, starting Tuesday with August 32nd on Earth from 1998. And then we're moving through Maelstrom, Polytechnique, and Incendies. This is going to be a tough series for me reading.
I think it's going to be a tough series for us watching until it gets into at least into the English language ones. I've heard that some of these are pretty bleak. But
yeah, I think this is going to be a darker series of movies we're watching. We'll still try and keep it pretty light and frothy for you. But it definitely is it's going to be a little bit of a shift from The Lion King, I would say.
For sure.
Also in August, if the release date holds, and I think it will, we're going to make a little pit stop to revisit Can't Stop the Peeling. We're going to be covering Nia DaCosta's Candyman, written by Jordan Peele, when that comes out.
So cool.
So get stoked for that.
Well, here's the promise I'm making. I'm saying I'm going to read the Candyman. I'm going to watch all of the other Candyman movies. I'm going to write a 4-part essay on the Candyman to be submitted for when we watch that movie.
You're gonna watch old Billy Condon's Candyman too?
Wait, was he in it?
No, he was the guy who did the last two Twilights, the Breaking Dawn movies, and
Did
his
he
first
do-
movie
Oh,
was Candyman 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in September we're going through the English language films Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, and Blade Runner 2049, all leading up to us watching Dune when it comes out, which I'm very excited for, in theaters and on HBO Max, so you can watch it from the comfort of your home if you so desire. We're very excited for it.
I can't imagine a world where the movie Dune is finally out. I've been anticipating that for so long.
And I should also mention, I think we can reveal this now. We're not going to get into all the details, but over these next 2 months, please email us your suggestions of movies you want us to cover, movie series you want us to cover on the podcast. Send them to cinemabumspod@gmail.com. When we get into Bumtober, you, dear listener, may just have the chance to select a series that we'll do in the future yourself. So,
Gasp! What? Listener participation? So exciting.
yeah, looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a good transitioning us into the fall. A good sort of-
yeah.
Yeah, as the weather gets colder, the days get shorter, the movies get darker.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what you want. Honestly, you want to be heading right into mid-November, right as the gloom really starts to set in. That's exactly when you want to watch X2, X3, Devil All the Time, and X4 in 3 days.
Cool. Well, we'll see you guys Tuesday. We're going to be back with a fan favorite to talk about August 32nd on Earth. So until then,
Much love.
thanks for listening. Yeah, I love you guys. Thanks for listening. It really does mean a lot that you've stuck with us.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep trying to make it better. Keep doing it.
Yeah. If you're stuck on us, I guess we're stuck with you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Cinema Bums is a production of DKG Podcasts. It is created and produced by Emma Temple and me, Wade Lawrence Holloman. I also edit and mix the podcast. Our theme music is by Zane Holloman, who you can find on Bandcamp, and our show art is by Autumn Beckner. Our social media is managed by Laura Bennett. If you like what you hear, please tell all your friends, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, the 2 best ways to spread the word about our work. You can also follow us on Instagram @CinemaBums or email us at cinemabumspod@gmail.com. Don't flake on us. We'll be back next week.